Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into what happens when a perfect plan runs into a messy reality. We're looking at Georgia's ambitious mission to modernize its government finances. And honestly, it's a story that has a lesson for pretty much any major project you can think of.
All right, let's just jump right in because this one chart, it tells you almost everything you need to know. For each category, that first bar is the score for Georgia's plan, the blueprint. The second bar is the score for how that plan was actually put into practice. See that huge gap between the two? That's our story right there.
So, to really get this story, we need to know where these scores are coming from. They're part of this really deep dive assessment called PULSE, which is kind of like a super detailed report card on how a government is handling its money. For over a decade now, Georgia has been on this quest to adopt the absolute highest international standards for public accounting. And the goal is pretty straightforward, but also really powerful. Create a modern, totally transparent system so you can make better decisions about spending on all the things that matter: roads, schools, healthcare, the whole shebang. So what the assessment found is basically a story of two halves. You've got the blueprint for the financial system, the design, the rules, and it's world-class. It gets a solid B. But then you have the construction, the actual on-the-ground work, and it's running into some serious problems, only scoring a C. So what makes the plan, this conceptual framework, so strong? What did Georgia get so incredibly right on paper? Well, it all starts with the decision to adopt something called IPSAS. You can just think of this as the global gold standard for government accounting. It's a set of rules made to make public finances everywhere more transparent, more accountable, and easier to compare. And the amount of foundational work they did was just incredible. They didn't just talk about it, they actually implemented 26 of these complex international standards, created one unified accounting system for everybody, and even set up an independent board to oversee it all. This is serious, high-level stuff. In fact, the effort was so thorough that the overall design, the framework for their public accounting system, got a top score, an A. You really can't get much better than that. So, if the plan gets an A, why is the reality lagging so far behind? This is where we run smack into that implementation gap. When you look at the actual performance, the numbers tell a very different story. A staggering 39%. That's almost 2/5 of all the areas they looked at scored a D, which is the lowest possible grade you can get. And looking at it pillar by pillar, you can really pinpoint the weaknesses. The framework plan gets that A, but its actual score is just a C+. And check out Pillar 2, Financial Assets, a D+ for both the plan and the reality. That's a huge sign of a specific, known weakness in how they account for complex financial instruments. Here's a perfect example of what that gap looks like. For financial assets, Georgia just hasn't implemented the standards you need to account for all the modern, complex financial tools governments use today. So yeah, the basics might be covered, but that more advanced accounting that's required now, it's just missing, and that creates a pretty major hole. So, and this is the crucial point, this is not about a bad plan. It's about all the real-world hurdles that get in the way. Things like not having enough staff with the right technical training, struggling with really complex valuations, and still relying on manual pen and paper processes when you really need automated systems. These are the practical roadblocks. So, the big question is, how does Georgia bridge this gap? How do you get from that brilliant blueprint to a solid on-the-ground reality? What are the next steps? The good news is, the report lays out a really clear, actionable roadmap. First, automate the systems and get rid of all that manual work. Second, build up your people's expertise with certifications and training. Third, go ahead and adopt those missing international standards. And finally, and this is a big one, make sure you have strong political leadership pushing to keep the whole thing moving forward. But why does all this matter? It's about improving the quality and reliability of the government's financial information. When you get this right, it means you can make smarter spending decisions at home, and you build way more trust with international partners and investors. Ultimately, Georgia's journey highlights a universal truth for any big project. Whether you're in government or business, creating a great plan is only half the battle. The real challenge, and really the true measure of success, is bridging that gap between the brilliant idea on paper and making it a reality for everyone.